January is here. I have now watched my first movie of the new year, Night Swim. Let's talk about this. Night Swim follows your typical ordinary family who moves into a brand new house that has a pool in the back. Everything seems to be going happy and dandy into this family's life until they notice strange things occurring with their pool. And well, that's all pretty much. I got any spoilers to you guys. This will be a spoiler-free review. January is always notorious for having some grade A stinkers. At least that kind of used to be the case. I feel like over the past couple of years, that January stereotype about the early release horror movies of the new year, it kind of goes up and down. I mean, even when it came to horror movies, it was always known the first January horror movie you were getting of the new year was just the worst thing you were possibly going to see all that year. But then we had movies like Scream 5 that were generally received well. Then we had Megan just last year that blew expectations out of the water and became a mega hit. It seemed like the streak had been broken and January was no longer expected to be a papooey month. And well, going into Night Swim, I was looking at the trailers that would play in theaters or online and zero interest, guys. I'm sorry if this movie seemed appealing to you, but to me, I was always like, we're down to haunted swimming pools now? God, get out of here, man. What are you talking about? What's next? A movie about a haunted mailbox? Actually, write that down. I was slightly going into this movie with the mindset of, yep, bad January horror movies are back. Let's sit through Night Swim and see how it goes. And, I have seen much worse out of January horror movies. Now, while that, of course, isn't the biggest compliment out there, I was actually pleasantly surprised with some of the scares and thrills in Night Swim. Although it's not going to be a standout of the year, I don't think you'd waste too much of your time watching this movie. Let me go into some of the things I actually did enjoy about this. So for one, I was very curious. All right, how you gonna go about explaining a haunted swimming pool, man? Would someone do a ritual in there? Someone died in there? A sadistic man lived in the house before? What is gonna be the weird cliche thing? And although the movie doesn't go too far into why the pool is haunted, the small backstory and rules that this swimming pool has and how it affects the family, I actually thought they did a pretty good job with that. And well, getting on to the family themselves, that was also a pleasant surprise. I like Wyatt Russell as an actor, enjoying him in the Monarch TV series on Apple right now. But the mother, the sister, and little brother, all of them had pretty decent chemistry with each other. Not one of them really stood out to me where I was like, oh, this is such an annoying character on screen. I actually felt for this family once things started going abrupt with the pool. And that right there itself is just going to make you enjoy this movie a little bit more than you're expecting, because they do actually put in a little effort into making you like this family, realizing why they're moving houses, what's going on with the dad, because his backstory in particular, a retired baseball player who's going through a disease that was keeping him from his career, and the way that ties into the pool, I was like, oh, okay, you got something going on here. It's also awesome when movies like this are based off horror shorts that were posted online years ago. This was actually based on a short that was made in 2014. You can look it up and watch it on YouTube right now, and all these years later, it turned into a feature film. The movie's also PG-13, and while I thought that was kind of gonna annoy me and stop me from enjoying some of the scares and thrills in here, there were a couple of moments sprinkled throughout this film where I was like, oh, they're pushing it. And even with the pool sequence itself, they managed to create a couple of suspenseful moments, one involving quarters, that I was like, oh, that's creative. I like the way you played that out. So genuinely, halfway into this movie, I was thinking to myself, yo, this might actually be another banger. The streak continues. I might actually be praising this movie. And then we get into some of the most cliched things that happen in these haunted location object type movies. That's, I think, what will be the biggest downfall of Night Swim. There's not anything particularly new other than the setting itself and that the pool is haunted. This actually follows the formula of so many haunted kind of movies, whether it's The Ring, Smile, and now Night Swim. You're put in a position of a haunted thing or object, whether it's a TV videotape or an entity that is smiling to you uncomfortably or this swimming pool. Then you get a slow build up at the beginning of the movie where you get creepy sequences involving those objects. A family member gets concerned, they investigate it, they find a weird history of other people that's been affected by it. They go visit that individual for more information on how to beat this thing, and then they go about their way of beating the thing. And as I was watching this movie, I was kind of mind blown how many movies have played through this scenario. Even more specifically when it came to the dad's arc in this movie, because that is something that's really been overdone in haunted house movie, whether it's something like Amityville or The Shining. And even though I was talking about there were a couple of sequences involving the pool where I thought they got creative, for every creative one, there was 3 other build-up sequences that led to a generic jump scare, monster/ghost designs that we have seen done thousands of times in other movies. But you know, even with these negatives, there was something else unexpected about Night Swim that I was like, oh, okay. The movie's actually kind of funny. And I'm mentioning this in the negative section because half of the humor you're going to get from this movie, I'm pretty sure is unintentional. There are going to be moments where you're flat out giggling and laughing because they've made characters out to be funny, whether it's the real estate agent that had me laughing, the guy who comes cleans and inspects the pool, he was pretty funny. But then there's moments where the movie's clearly trying to scare you or creep you out, but you can't help but to laugh at what's happening. But something like that kind of just helps you enjoy the movie and be entertained with it, because at the end of the day, again, this is a movie about a haunted swimming pool. Like, that's ridiculous. I'm glad the movie was a little ridiculous with it and didn't take itself that seriously. So overall, look, if I'm being honest, January has suffered through way worse horror movies. This is not the pure garbage, boring, unwatchable movie I was kind of expecting it to be, but it's for sure nothing I think anyone should be like running out to go see. So for Night Swim, I'm gonna give action 2.5 stars. There's actually a lot of slow buildup. You actually don't get the history of the pool until way later in the movie than I thought, and you know how jump scare moments go. You gotta have those moments of quiet, slow build up. And for 1/3 of the time, it's for a creative sequence. Comedy in the movie, I'm actually going to give it 3 stars. I thought there was actually a lot of funny moments in here, whether intentional and unintentional. And whichever way you start laughing, you are at least laughing and entertained with this ridiculous premise of a haunted swimming pool. Drama in the movie, I'm going to give it 2 stars. I kind of wish they delve a little deeper into the inner workings of the swimming pool and why it was a certain way, but they really only tap the surface level, enough to intrigue you and get you going, oh, okay, I like that, but they never dive into the deep end with all of it. Horror in the movie, I'm gonna give 2.5 stars. There's really only like 2 actual really good moments where I was like, oh, for PG-13, that's great. For most of the time, it's very tame jump scares, typical looking monster in your face. I doubt you'll be that scared with this movie. And suspense the movie, I will give 3 stars because it's a lot of underwater scenes, and I don't know what it is about us watching underwater movies, but we tend to hold our breath to see if we could last with the character, and so many of these people needed to drown. No way you can hold your breath that long. Knowing time's running out, you need oxygen. That just keeps you in a suspenseful state. Casual horror movie fans, I'm gonna give this a B-. Cinephiles, I'm gonna give it a C+. And critically, I'm going to give it a C+. For Night Swim, while I do think it's a movie worth a watch if you got nothing else, it's nothing to rush out at sea, and it's better to just stay at home and rent it.
That'll do, Donkey. That'll do.
Again, that's just my opinion on the movie. To me, this is like a perfect Friday night streaming watch. Something where you got like junk food in front of you. It's a quiet night. You need something to just keep you entertained for a little bit. You pop this on. Let me know what you guys thought about Night Swim if you got around to seeing it. Did you think it was a better than a typical average January horror movie? Or do you think this belongs in the category of garbage January horror films? At the end of everything, be sure and like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.